Did you know that there is a right way and a wrong way to consume self help content? So, about 3 years ago, when I wanted to make a change in my life, I knew I needed to get serious, and so I became a self help junkie. The problem is that after about a year and a half of consuming self help books, YouTube content, podcasts, I realized that my life hadn't changed in any significant way, despite the fact that I was looking at self help content constantly. I was engaging in something called productive procrastination, meaning that I could consume self help content, which allowed me to feel productive without actually changing anything. I needed to change the way I started consuming this content. The first thing you need to understand when you are consuming self help content is that it is not for entertainment and it is not for casual consumption. So you need to approach self help content like you are reading a textbook or like you are taking a class. The object is to learn something and then apply it into your life. Because if you're not making the effort to apply those things into your life, then really what are you getting out of that content? So my problem is that I was consuming all this content casually. While I was reading it or while I was watching it, I was just listening to it. I wasn't taking the time to absorb it. I wasn't taking the time to think about how to apply it in my life. And so when I was done, it didn't really benefit me at all because I just moved on to the next thing, thinking I hadn't found what I was looking for in the last book I read, the last podcast I listened to. And it just kept me in this cycle of like constantly hunting for something without even actually trying anything. Now, when I consume this content, I kind of think of it as panning for gold, meaning I go into it looking for something that I can apply to my life immediately. And these are the three things I do every time I consume this content. First, I go into it with an open mind. I know a lot of people will say to attack this kind of content with a question in mind, and I am saying the exact opposite. And the reason that I'm saying the exact opposite is because sometimes when you go in looking for a certain answer, you kind of put blinders on yourself. So going into self-help content with a completely open mind allows you to absorb things that you might miss if you had gone into it with a specific question. The second thing I do is I take notes and ponder. If you hear something or read something and it gives you that kind of that aha moment, you're like, this is it, stop, pause what you are doing, pause what you are listening to, and take notes. Because I guarantee you, no matter how groundbreaking you think that is, by the time you're done, you'll have trouble remembering it exactly as it was said or exactly how you felt in that moment. So take the time to write down those aha moments. Like you can jot it on a piece of paper. If I am listening to an audiobook, I actually create a little clip with a note. Or sometimes I even take notes on my computer. It just depends where I am. But taking those notes has been super helpful to me because I can look back and be like, oh, I don't remember exactly reading this, but that really is something that I want to apply. Along with writing it down, I also encourage you to take the time to wonder why that thing stood out to you. Ask yourself, is there a reason that you found this significant? Because oftentimes there is a reason, and sometimes we don't even know what that reason is until we actually take the time to think about it. The next thing is to seek action items. So think of self-help content as like manuals because they are giving you action items all over the place. Sometimes these action items change the way you do things. They might change the way you think of things. The point is to look for items that you can start applying in your life so that you can see how they work for you. Self-help content also has a different kind of action item, especially if you are reading a self-help book, and that is activities and quizzes. So if a book has a activity or a quiz, stop and take the time to do it. I say that because in the past, I always was like, well, if I like the book, I'll go back and do the quiz. I'll go back and do the activities. And you know what? I never did. But doing the activities, they're put in the book for a very specific reason, and they prepare you for the content that is coming up. So if you take the time to do those activities or those quizzes, then you are going to get more out of the rest of the book. So those are the three things that I look for every time I consume self-help content. Because if you aren't applying the things that you are reading about, that you are hearing, then you aren't going to get anything out of them. And like I said, it took me a year and a half of just devouring self-help content. Like, I would read book after book. I would listen to podcasts if I was like doing chores around the house. I would have YouTube videos going all the time, and I was like, this is amazing. They are going to teach me how to be a better person. But it really was just a form of procrastination. I didn't really start seeing changes until I started applying these things and looking for things I could do in my life. So if you can relate to this idea of productive procrastination, go ahead and let me know in the comments below what has helped you, and I will talk to you next time. Okay, bye.